since we have a lot of folks joining us already. So thank you for being here and joining the call. We have a very full agenda, as we always do. We have our welcome. We'll have some opening remarks from Daniel Connor, who is representing DOEE. We're going to vote on our batch 3, and there'll be a time for a presentation of changes if there are any adjustments or amendments to the batch action plans. And then we'll have some a discussion about our agency input from the members that have been participating through this process. And then we'll wind it up with next steps, a summary, and we'll have some closing remarks and a closeout from our co-chair, Mr. Gaddis from DC Water. Next slide, please. So just as we always do, I want to give you a summary recap of how we got here. We were established by the city administrator in September of 2021. And this task force is reporting to the Deputy Mayor of Operations and Infrastructure. We also have 2 co-chairs, both the CEO from DC Water, and we have Daniel Connor representing DOEE. The meeting was kicked off in November of 2021, and our flood task force members are comprised of 13 DC government agencies, and we have 15 consulting members from both the federal and public partners. We are working on our final report. This meeting will help to close out all of our progress to date, and that will be complete next month. And the flood task force meetings have always been publicized. We have recordings, we have postings and minutes on the website. It's dcfloodtaskforce.org. We also have other resources there as well, and that is dcfloodtaskforce.org. We did have a separate public listening session during the month of March, and we had public input and an opportunity for the public to actually speak on the meeting and the subject of the meeting. Next slide, please. So our flood task force has been broken up into 2 action teams, and they cover 9 categories of detail. While the residential resilience covered categories 1 through 4, and we also had governance and coordination. They covered categories 5 through 9. So we've had lots of meetings, and we are now at, like I said before, our final full flood task force meeting. That's happening now. The schedule that we've had during this process has been the full flood task force has met every other month on the 3rd Wednesday. We've had our combined action team meetings on the 2nd Friday. Previously, we did have the residential resilience meeting on the 2nd Tuesday and the governance and coordination meeting on the 2nd Friday, but we decided to consolidate them in the last few weeks the last month and a half, because we were winding down and the subjects kind of overlapped quite a bit. The full flood task force report, like I said before, is going to cover all of the 9 categories, and that's due in February, which is next month. The post final report, after we're done with that and packaged up, we will share it with the city administrator, and we will then move into a new posture, which will be to track the progress of these action plans that we've established, as well as to continue the discussion around the budget and the prioritization of that budget for each action plan. Next slide. So with that, I'd like to welcome Daniel Connor to the call. He is the Chief of Staff at DOEE, and he's also the designee in place of Director Wells, who is no longer the director of the agency. And so he will give us opening remarks. Daniel?
Thanks so much, Monty. Right before Director Wells left the agency to enjoy his 2 days of retirement and took on the role of being the director of OPLA for the mayor, he asked me if I would step in to this important role, one, to make sure that we get this across the finish line, and to make sure that the city administrator's office and the mayor's office understand the importance of this, and really try to work with all of our sister agencies and this body to ensure that the recommendations are funded and that we make good use of everyone's time that has been put into this. I know that you all have done a lot of work coming up with these 27 action plans and the final report. And we want to make sure that all of this work is considered and that we continue to improve resilience around the District of Columbia here. So I appreciate all of the work that goes into this. We couldn't ask for a better leader here in Monty to keep us all on track. And I would like to especially thank our staff at the Department of Energy and Environment who have live and breathe flooding across the district, and for their work that is reflected in this report as well. So with that, I want to, ensure everyone that this is still a priority at our agency. And we will continue to do everything that we can to make sure that these recommendations are actually put into action, and everything that we can do at the Department of Energy and Environment to make that happen. So with that, thank you all once again for the hard work that has gone into this. And if I can be helpful to the task force, please reach out to me anytime and we'll continue this work together. Thank you, Monty.
Daniel, that's perfect. Thank you so much for kicking us off with those opening remarks. You are the consistency that we need, and we're so excited to have you joining us in this capacity as we, like you said, take it to the finish line. So thank you, Daniel. Okay, so we are going to move into our summary of batch 3, the action plan revisions. With that, I'd like to invite Disby to speak. I think it might be Philip Edmonds.
Yes, you were right. Thanks, Monty. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
As all of you may recall, back in November 16th, 2022, Disby designed and offered for public comment 5 specific proposals for your consideration. There was the Water Damage Remediation Grant Program, the Water Damage Remediation Insurance Program, the program that would establish an outreach program, and then a program that would establish a premium discount program, and then lastly, a program to establish a requirement to make available enhanced water damage coverage. We received public comments for a number of industry and advocacy groups, and we made changes to 2 specific proposals, which I'll discuss a little bit in detail right now. So the only changes that were made were to the Water Damage Remediation Program, which is a grant program, which would be established and provide coupons to qualifying district residents up to $3,500 to purchase remediation-related products and services from certain vendors. Then there's the Water Damage Remediation Insurance Program, in which the DC government will contract with a property and casualty insurance company licensed in DC to issue a specially designed group insurance policy that will provide $10,000 of insurance coverage. Both of these programs were established to help identify and remediate flood damage at a point in time within 48 hours, and establish a program where residents could remediate the flood damage that they incurred through water damage. Based on public comment, we made the following revisions to the grant program specifically, and they are: we clarified what households are eligible, and all qualifying residential, single family, and renters of multi-unit dwellings would qualify. We clarified what is covered in terms of the services or products that would be provided, and that is dewatering or drying out services and products. There are no structural or foundational repairs that would be included as part of the program. We also clarified that only coupons would be issued to district residents. No money or reimbursement would be made to district residents as a feature of the program. Up to $3,500 would be issued in the form of coupons to district residents. So they in turn could pay for products and services that they would in turn purchase at vendors throughout the district. There'd be no ability to request more money and no adjustment or adjudication as part of the coupon program. As I said before, this program is designed to address remedial issues quickly and can be part of or the initial step of a larger, more comprehensive program. In regards to the insurance program, based on the public comments, we made no major revisions, but we made the following clarifications, and they are that the district will create a list of covered properties based on income, household size, and data. And a feasibility study will be conducted to assist in the development of a sound price for the policy and estimate the cost of the entire program. DSB would develop legislation to authorize both programs. In closing, I will just say that since the grant program, in our estimation, can be implemented more quickly than the insurance program, DSB recommends moving forward with the grant program immediately, while a feasibility study that I mentioned before is performed on the insurance program. Once the feasibility study is completed and experience from the grant program analyzed, a decision can be made about whether to transition to an insurance plan, layer the two programs. So the grant program is the first tranche, and then layer it with the insurance program, or retain just the grant program. DSB has proposed funds in its FY 2024 budget to conduct the feasibility study. Feasibility study will consider the parameters of the program and investigate whether the insurance industry would be willing to participate in the program. We will evaluate coordinating the remediation programs with subsidizing flood insurance policies for low-income residents moving forward. So that's a summary of the changes made to the two programs, the coupon program and the flood insurance program. Again, we made no changes to the other three proposals, which would establish an outreach program, a discount program, and an enhanced water damage coverage program. At this time, I'll take any questions or any comments. Okay, hearing none, I'll turn it back over to you, Monty.
Thank you, Philip. That was great, and thank you for the thorough explanation of what the changes are. And I think that that this process has been very fruitful in that regard, because we do have something that's tangible that will give that relief to residents. So thank you so much, and we'll look forward to seeing what happens after the feasibility study. Next up, we have Nick Bonard. He's going to go through the action plan public comments, and we'll have our final vote also with Barbara Mitchell from DC Water. So thank you, Nick from DOE, and Barbara from DC Water.
Sure. And Rachel, can you go back one slide? Just to kind of situate us here today. So in addition to this being like the final meeting, wrap-up meeting, we still do have a voting item on the agenda today. And your job, as Barbara will explain, is to vote on all the action plans that you see here. And if you go back one slide, Rachel, just to kind of situate us where we are, the action plans that you're voting on, you've already seen before. You saw them for the first time on September 21. And then on November 16th, well, after September 21st, members of this task force were able to comment and provide input on those action plans. Then after they were modified based on member comments, on November 16th, they were released to the public. And then, since November 16th, the public has had a chance to comment on them. And what you saw in your emails on Friday last week was the final versions of the action plans, which are up for vote today. And what we just heard from Philip was an explanation of the changes for two of the action plans. Those are the only two that were substantially changed as a result of public comment. So that's why we wanted to give Philip a chance to describe that. The rest of the action plans did not change in any substantial way, so we won't go through what each of them have in them, because we've already done that in September. But I will just mention that we did receive, I think it was about 6 separate public comments. A number of them were specifically on the flood insurance proposals from members of the industry and folks that we've worked with to try and think through. And so I think those were really helpful for us and obviously resulted in a few changes that you heard about. And then there was also some comments, a couple of general comments on a few of the other action plans, and we'll make those available to the public as well. But just to kind of situate everybody, as far as changes from the last time you saw the action plans, there really aren't any except for the ones that Philip just talked about. So with that, I will pass it to Barbara to get us to the vote.
Thank you, Nick. Again, I'm Barbara Mitchell, Assistant General Counsel at DC Water, and I'm in the Department of Government and Legal Affairs, and I will again facilitate today's final vote for the task force. So let's take a moment to quickly establish quorum, which I see is already on the screen. And so thank you so much, Monty, for making sure that we have established quorum. Today's vote with the task force full body will be our last and final vote for batch 3 of the action plans. This represents tireless work of the action plan, agency sponsors, and the public. So everyone who has participated so far should be very proud. The previous 2 batches have been fully adopted by this body, and we will continue the same cadence to consider and adopt the final group, batch 3. So batch 3 consists of the action plans that were published on the Flood Task Force website for public comments, and Nick spoke briefly to that. You will vote on whether to finalize and approve batch 3 today. Members, I'd like to turn your attention to the consent agenda as presented on the screen. For the purposes of the record and those who did not join us at our last full task force meeting, I should note that a consent agenda enables members to vote on the group of items in block without discussion. In a few moments, directors or their designees will be able to register their roll call or virtual roll call vote by typing yes to approve the measures, no to disapprove the measures, or abstain to abstain from the vote in the chat. Voting members, you have the consent agenda properly before you as amended by public comment. Please note that this list incorporates the changes previously discussed by the Department of Insurance, Securities and Banking and other sponsoring agencies. There are 16 action items. So I am not going to read all of them, but to summarize, we have action plans on outreach, storm drainage action, remediation, renters in basements, workforce, and our crowd favorite, insurance. These action plans were drafted by several task force members, including DISB, DOEE, DC Water, Department of Buildings, and HCMA. As previously stated, the plan includes the batch 3 that has already been approved, or not approved, but reviewed by the public and published on the Flood Task Force website. The approval process and timeline were previously showed on your screen, and I think everybody really knows that at this point, so we don't need to go back. But those amendments that were made on the public, because of the public, have been incorporated here, and we've already spoken to them, and there were no questions, so we're going to move forward. Members, if you have heard the list of action plans to be considered and the public comments on those plans and those changes that were made thereafter. If there is any consent to the agenda or the consent agenda as presented, please speak up now. And I don't hear or see any objection to the consent agenda as presented. The task force is now considering it as listed and presented on the screen. So we can go ahead and get to voting. And as you guys know, you can vote in the chat, and voting members seeking to approve the consent agenda can type yes. They can type no if they're not approving the consent agenda, or abstain if they like to abstain. And if you haven't already, we can start that minute countdown for the vote. And if you're having any technical difficulties, please unmute your microphone and you can vote. Thank you for giving our team a little time to tally the votes and let us know where we stand. But I think everybody's pretty proud of what we've done so far. So I think we're going to be okay. But Monty, you can let me know once everything is finalized.
We're monitoring the chat now. Thank you, Barbara. This is great. If you give us one more, a few more seconds, we're just going to double check. Thank you. I'm sorry, I just wanted to check and see if one of the Phils from DISB could vote.
I'm struggling over here. I'm going to register an oral yes.
Okay, got it. We got it, Phil. Thank you, Philip. Thank you.
Great, so that should conclude.
Barbara?
Yep.
I'm sorry, Barbara. I was going to give you an update. Thank you so much. Let me turn on my camera as well. I was going to give you an update. We have 12 out of the 13 present, and we are unanimous with all the agencies that are present and voting. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And that finalizes our final vote of the full task force. Thank you.
Remember, it's always so smooth with you. Thank you. And I love your very bright, shiny energy. I'm going to miss that since it's our last call together for the flood task force. So right now we are going to move on with our schedule, and we're going to talk about the flood task force member input. So we have 13 DC government agencies. We have 15 federal and public partners involved. So we're going to give each one of you an opportunity to give your feedback and input. And we'd like to have, to run this section of our meeting, we're going to have Opera Nora from DC Water talk to you about the kind of questions that we'd like for you to respond to in this section. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Monty. Good afternoon, everyone. As Monty just mentioned, this is our final meeting for the full task force, and a lot of work and effort has been put forward thus far. A lot of you have been with us from the beginning, and that is overappreciated. I tell everyone that one of my superpowers is understanding what I don't know and what I'm not good at. And so this process has been a humbling experience to hear from all of you all and learn from all of you all throughout this process. And I want to reiterate that this is not the end. This is not the finale. Because so much great work has been done, it only makes sense that we are a force that continues. And so in the next iteration of whatever the flood task force is, we hope that the momentum continues. But at this point, we want to hear from each of you because your input is very valuable. In fact, on our last one of our action plan meetings, we did something similar. And the purpose is just to hear from you all in regards to what have been some of the best outcomes of this process so far? What part of this process and of this work should continue? How should it continue? And what projects and what work are you excited to see implemented? And the reason why it's so valuable and important that we actually hear from you is because, as we stated at the beginning of this call, we are meeting and pushing forward with a wrap-up meeting to present to the city administrator. And it was going to be important to actually hear from you all so we can deliver that message as to the importance of this work. So I won't belabor this portion of the call, but if we could just take a few moments, Monty, I don't know how much time we have set aside to hear from folks, but now is the opportunity to cast your ideas and your thoughts about this process, and we'll definitely be taking note.
But I think that we have anywhere between a minute and a half to a full 2 minutes for each person to present on behalf of their agency or their organization.
Excellent. I see Mr. Sell, and in fact, I was going to give him a shout out as being one of the core members who have been with us from the beginning, but I see you have your hand raised, so please.
Let me try to make it quick. I think the whole process went very well. I think going forward, the thing I'm anxious to see completed is the actual modeling of both the changing weather patterns and the impact of rising sea level on a neighborhood by neighborhood basis. I noticed the district looking for comments on the comeback plan, and it occurs to me that any sort of placemaking for the downtown as an alternative to what currently exists has to take into account how weather patterns and rising sea level are going to affect it going forward.
Excellent point, Mr. Sell. I can always count on you to bring it full forward. Thank you.
So, Opera, I was just going to mention that we do have a slide for each agency or each flood task force member. So if you want to go in that order, that's fine. And Sal, you might have something else that you want to say a little bit further in when your organization comes up. But that's great advice and great comment. So we'll let you go ahead and Opera and just introduce each agency as it comes up.
Excellent. Thank you. So Director Rodriguez, I see that we have your designee. Is Melissa on? I actually didn't see her name.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Great. Yeah, so I guess I'm starting us off. I think it was a really successful effort in that we have quite an extensive list of things that this group is going to accomplish going forward, and have already started a lot of them. So that's really great to see. And I just think that the format that this created, in which there was the formal voting structure, the formal template for coming up with that, just kept us all really organized. So I appreciate that and look forward to continuing to do the work.
Thank you, Melissa. So what I'm hearing from you is that the organization was really crucial to getting it done.
Yeah, I think so. It's so easy for large groups like this to have a lot of meetings and not get to actual actions, but the organization of it and the specific deadlines, I think, kept us on track.
Perfect. Thank you. Up next, we have the Department of Transportation. Do we have a representative? EJ, Dan, is Stephen on? Robbie?
I didn't see anybody on the line.
Yeah, we haven't seen they didn't participate in the vote, so I don't believe they're on the call today.
Okay, we can tap them, reach out and touch a friend afterwards. Yeah. Anyone from the DC Office of Planning?
Yes, I'm Will Oliver from the DC Office of Planning. I'm here in place of Stephen Geyer. So this is my first meeting, but some of the takeaways just from what I've reviewed is that as far as like the best outcomes of the process so far, the list of infrastructure projects has been and will be useful, as it'll help us inform our future planning efforts, as well as the capital budgeting process. We're looking forward to seeing improved collaboration in terms of floodplain management and review. And we're also looking forward to seeing increased collaboration with community stakeholders, as well as getting more information on the potential need for financial assistance versus the proposed level of funding. And it's just from what I've seen today, I just want to say great job to everyone. This has been really informative.
Thank you, Will. I took note of your points of the list of infrastructure projects, the capital budgeting process, as well as increased collaboration internally amongst the agencies, but as well as with our stakeholders. And I think those are very, very valuable points. Thank you. Up next, we have Disby.
Yep, thanks. Appreciate that. I speak on behalf of Sharon Schiff, Philip Barlow, Angela King, Pratima Lele, and all the hard work that was put in at Disby. Number one, I think that the best outcome of the process was the proposals themselves. I think they're comprehensive. I think they're thoughtful, and I think they're designed well. I think to reiterate what I think Melissa said was, I think the organization was excellent. I think dividing the working groups into two and aligning the different departments toward a specific charge was very important. I think the charge was made clear by the documents themselves in what our responsibilities and what the outcomes would be. So we were always working against the deadline of putting proposals in front of the decision makers and making sure they were done in a comprehensive way with the lens of helping underserved communities. So I think it was very clear in what the task at hand was. And as for what I'd like to see moving forward, I'd like to see some type of touch base continue moving forward. We had a number of sister agencies and stakeholders who really brought their best to the effort. And it would be a shame to see that drop off. I know there's some kind of cadence on a go-forward basis in FY 2023, but if we can continue that moving forward, and if that doesn't drop off, I think the good work will continue. So I don't know if Sharon's on the line, wants to say something, but I think those are the comments from Disby. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Philip. We can always count on you to be full circle. So I have captured your notes. I appreciate you. Up next.
Yeah. Hi.
Oh, sorry, Sharon.
Yeah, this is Sharon Schiff. I just wanted to, first of all, thank the Disby team for the remarkable work that they've put into developing the proposals. They brought their commitment, their expertise, which resulted in the proposal. And we also appreciate all of the feedback that we received, both from the agencies and externally. It has been a labor of love for this team through this very deliberative and iterative process to come up with this, I think, great collaborative work. So we appreciate the collaboration, and we certainly look forward to what we think will be impactful results for the district residents.
Thank you, Sharon. Up next, the Office of Risk Management.
Hi all, Jed Ross here. Definitely wanted to say thank you to all of you. I know Nick and Meredith and Monty did a lot as it relates, along with Salil and others who did a lot on the insurance team. So thank you guys for all your work related to that. Definitely a big shout out to the Disby partners. We had some slower starts, but then they really came through with lots of great ideas, and appreciate all of their hard work. And of course, my team, Robert Preston and Jane Waters, really appreciate all that they've done. I will say, I think I there will be some additional probably tweaks to the votes on what we took today. You know, a coupon and what happens if vendors don't perform well. Lots of sausage to be worked out, but lots of great ideas. I think we can continue in this fashion, and obviously having everyone support this important effort and pushing forward from a budgetary perspective is really necessary, and ensuring that we have the money to help and reduce the impact of flooding in the district for all our residents is pretty critical and key. So I would just urge all of the directors and leadership team, co-chairs and partners to continue to push to request funding to dedicate towards this important effort. I'm also hopeful and optimistic, and wearing my DC Water hat, that you know, infrastructure dollars related to reduction of PFAS and other concerns that are impacting our water sources will continue to give money that can help in alleviating these concerns as well. And so just making sure that, you know, flooding obviously is impacting our water, it's impacting our sewer systems, in addition to our residents. And so our residents' homes and property. So it's just a bigger issue on our environment that I am hopeful we can continue to invest in. So thanks again to everyone, and I will continue to push forward and advocate for money and resources in this regard.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. We definitely understand that the budget and funding is a crucial part. Actually, is the part of getting this work done, and this is only a piece of the environmental and equity work that we have to do as district agency and partners and communities. So we appreciate the support that you have lended to this initiative as well. Is there anyone else from ORM that would like to speak, or can we move to DGS?
We're good at ORM. Thank you.
Excellent. Up next, the Department of General Services.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. This is Matt Floca from DGS. First off, I just wanted to say thank you to all the internal and external team members that have taken part in this process. It has definitely been eye-opening, and I've personally learned so much over the past year or so. So thanks all around to everyone on the great collaboration. Thinking kind of holistically about what we've done so far, accomplished so far, I think the best part of being involved in the process has been gaining a better understanding of what the public and our DC government client and sister agencies are prioritizing and thinking about when it comes to flood preparation. Moving forward, we will at DGS will be monitoring keenly the progress of updates to flood modeling, and I think that came up earlier on in the conversation, and how that new information may impact the major projects we implement for DC government, and whether that's a new school or a new rec center or any other projects from other agencies, or any of our internal operations that support DC government on a day-to-day basis. And maybe secondly or lastly, from a more cost standpoint, because we always have budget in mind for any of our efforts or projects, I think we want to make sure that any at-risk projects that we execute or operations we implement are sufficiently funded to be as flood prepared as possible.
Great points, Matt, especially the gaining of better understanding of what really matters most in the areas of flooding. Thank you for that. Up next, we have DPR, the Department of Parks and Recreation. I don't think we have anyone represented.
No, Opera, I'm so sorry. There's no one on the call right now.
No worries. We'll add them to the Touch a Friend list of DDOT. Up next, the Department of Housing and Community Development. I don't know if we have anyone on the line, but again, we can reach out to Richard.
I believe they dropped off. So yes, sorry.
No worries. The Department of Public Works.
First and foremost, we definitely need to update this page. Good afternoon, everyone. Once again, on behalf of DPW, my name is Melvin Smith. Speaking on behalf of Director Spriggs, and I think many of the comments that have been shared before me pretty much represent DPW's sentiments as well. It doesn't go without saying that flooding has had impacts across the city on many of our residents, and this task force had not only came up with concrete measures to address those issues and episodes of flooding, but it brought together the right agencies, the right contacts to start building relationships. And so that we're moving the conversation from the news and from street corners actually to the places where we can get things done and get problems solved. And so DPW's involvement in the task force has been very beneficial and has been very helpful. Most importantly, with just building relationships, being able to have collaborative conversations on what things we can do together. And it's also inspired many different projects and initiatives that we would like to roll out and bring to the community. Where I think we'll see the biggest difference is that, with the initiatives that's been brought through the 3 batches of action plans, we'll start to see, I think, immediate and long-term dividends on just the attentiveness of DC government as a whole towards the concerns that residents have, endured and expressed for a number of years. It's taken the conversation from just, this is what happens to this is what we can do about it, and this is how we can reduce whatever impacts flooding has had for residents for a number of years. And so I think we should all, give ourselves a round of applause and be thankful for that we're actually making a difference and have more of a difference that will come. In particular, I would be remiss if I didn't say that the action plans that I think DPW will be looking forward to the most will be those that's involved in addressing community concerns directly. Action Plan 9.3 with the early detection signals and monitoring devices. Action Plan 8.3 that will, create educational engagements right in the community to do outreach. And then more importantly, just the ongoing conversations that many of these DC government agencies will continue to have. DC Water is working on some projects as a result of some of our collaborative efforts. And I'm just really excited about the work that has been done and that will continue to be done through this flood task force. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Melvin. And first off, apologies for the slide. You're right, it needs to be updated, as well as the DHCHD slide needs to be updated as well. So we will make those corrections. Thank you for your fulsome comments and all of the input and work that DPW has lended to this effort as well. It could not be done without you all. And I agree that as this work continues, your voice, the agency's work will be valuable, particularly when it comes to the concerns and addressing those concerns more immediately of the community. Up next, we have the DC Department of Buildings.
Good afternoon. This is Christopher Bailey, standing in for Director Ernest Schrappa. Some of the key takeaways that the Department of Buildings is really excited about is things that have already been touched on, but I'll elaborate a little bit further, is just the education and collaboration that this type of team brings together, because there are certain processes, there are certain regulatory responsibilities that each of us have, and not knowing what that other agency has or doesn't have, or is entitled to information or doesn't have information, how we collect information, how we share information, how the public receives that information once we've gathered it, a lot of that has been brought to light because of this task force. I specifically like the coordination that we've experienced leading up to this point, because we have a very critical role in permitting, as well as notifying individuals of where they are, because some people don't know that they're in the floodplain. And when it comes to doing construction work, we can actually provide them information. We can give them leads. We can direct them. This has brought light some of our own issues that we have to bring up to code, basically, which is our intake methods. They need to be improved. Some of our systems need to be updated, and it really shows with the budget requests, as well as with the maybe even personnel that we need in order to handle this type of issue. And I'm very thankful for all of the agencies that's participated and that have helped us get to where we're at. And I see a great benefit with new programs, new informational guides, possibly new employees to help this message get through. So thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. I appreciate your comments, and I have taken note, especially the education and collaboration and understanding the strengths and the barriers between agencies. I think those are very crucial. Up next, we have the DC Office of Racial Equity.
Hi, everyone. This is Emily Ruskin. Dr. Hewitt sends her regrets that she's unable to join today. First of all, thank you so much for including us and for keeping racial equity and equity more broadly so forefront in the conversation. It's been really encouraging to see just how central it is to the conversations and how seriously it's taken. And we really admire and appreciate everyone's dedication to that. I think one of the things that we wanted to highlight just about things that we've been really happy to see or to report on is that we, and I think we've probably mentioned this before, but the Office of Racial Equity is currently undergoing a very similar process for an action plan to advance racial equity in the district as a whole, which we just put out as a draft. It's still open for comment. And in the conversations that we've been having with residents over the summer and over the past year in workshops and at community events, issues of environmental justice and concerns about things like homes flooding have come up in conversation. And I think it's been really, it just feels encouraging and also just really wonderful to be able to report to residents that these are things that are actively being discussed and worked on by a really thoughtful group of people that is, trying to make sure that we do this to the best, to get it right. And so that's been one of the really great outcomes. And also, like I said, just to see the consistent commitment and dedication to equity in the conversations. And we're just really excited to continue being thought partners with you all as the work continues. So thank you so much for including us.
Thank you, Emily. We definitely appreciate the work of you and your team for the Office of Racial Equity to be such a new agency to the district fold. You all jumped right in ensuring that equity was at the forefront of these conversations, and the plans could not have been done without the help and support of you and your team. So we definitely value and appreciate that and look forward to the collaboration going forward. Up next, we have the DC Mayor's Office of Community Relations and Services, the MOKERS team, which I don't know if I saw anyone.
I don't believe there's anyone on the call from the MOKERS team either.
Okay. What about DCHA, the Housing Authority?
No, they're not on the call right now.
Okay. I don't know if I even saw anyone from OPC. What about the Commission on Climate Change and Resiliency? No. Anyone from the National Capital Planning Commission? I don't think I saw anyone from the Army Corps.
They weren't able to make it today.
Okay. What about FEMA? MPS? No. What about the Federal City Council? No. The Department of, or excuse me, the Building Industry Association?
Salazon.
I'm sorry, who's that, Salil?
Salarino.
Yeah, I have Mr. Sell's comments, unless, if there's anything additional you'd like to add.
Yeah, quickly, the other thing I want to say is it's important to continue what we started looking at capital projects, because that's, that's a more involved and long-term prospect, but it could be critical to some areas of the city once we see what the modeling reveals.
Mhm. Noted, okay. Anyone from AOBA? What about WMATA? Pepco? No. Washington Gas? Okay, well, I think that wraps up our input session. Again, thank you all for your participation up until this point and all your comments that you've lended. For the agencies and groups that were not here to kind of give their input, but definitely have been a valuable stakeholder in this process, we'll definitely be reaching out to them as well. Thank you, Monty.
Thank you, Opera. Well done. I think, as Opera mentioned, we will send out the questions and give those agencies and organizations an opportunity to go on record and make a statement about this process and how they felt about what was great about it or what needed to be improved, and how we can continue with that forward momentum that we've had so far. I really enjoyed hearing from everybody in the agencies talk about their thoughts and feelings. I think that that it has been a lot of work, and it's been pleasant working with everybody because it has people at the table having a conversation about the things that are most important to make sure that the city, the residents, and all the assets within the city are protected. So from that, I think that we have a lot of things to celebrate and be happy about. So we're going to go into our next steps, and we are tracking fast with time. So we'll probably end a little early, but you want to go to the next slide? And so with this, Meredith Upchurch from DOEE. Meredith, do you want to go over the numbers?
Sure.
All right.
Well, I appreciate everyone's comments in our previous section. I think you all have teed things up quite well for our summary of what we've done and our next steps. So this is just a quick glance of what the task force has entailed. Quick look by the numbers, 2 public listening sessions, 8 full task force meetings, 24 action team meetings, 13 agencies, 15 stakeholders, 27 action plans and over 50 planning meetings. So lots and lots and lots of work. And I just want to add that it has been really fulfilling and satisfying to see our original thoughts just as we threw ideas and needs down on this long list of what could be our potential things we need to get fixed. And now to see action plans and agencies that have, and individuals that have stepped up to actually put this work, you know, into practice and make it happen and solve the problems. So many problems that we have raised up, but we have a lot of really good plans to get to the end or to solve those problems. And all of the people that have been involved, some of you have come to every single meeting we've had, and that I just have so appreciative of the amount of time people have committed to this effort and the input you've given and everything you've read and everything you've written that could then be read by others and give us the plans we need to have. So yeah, thank you for all of the participants and everybody who has stepped up. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, so here we are with next steps. Yeah, I get to take all of the things that everybody said this is what we should do next and say that's what we're planning to do next. So we've got the task force report, which is going to contain all of the action plans, summaries of everything else we've done, all the accomplishments of the task force. That is being pulled together to be delivered to the city administrator in February. And then after we go through all the reviews and approvals at that level, then it will get posted publicly when it's ready to be done so. And then that's when the work continues. You know, we'll reach this milestone, but it is just a milestone. You know, we finished these plans, but these plans are living documents. So we are going to keep working on implementing our action plans. And that means we're going to continue having meetings and focused discussions to further develop what we need to develop. You know, just a couple of the high priority, really important items are the infrastructure projects and the insurance options. But I could probably list every single action plan, you know, that may need to have some further coordination to make things happen. And I have just, again, so appreciative of everybody from the key agencies that have stepped up to do this work. And it's been so great to see all these pieces and all these capabilities that everybody has come together to really work on this very, very multi-agency, multi-stakeholder effort. And so as we move in, we're implementing FY23 right now. We've got our budget requests in for FY24. As we keep working on our projects, we're going to start looking to FY25 and figure out, okay, what money do we need to, need to have in place to keep these projects going or start new projects in FY25. There's still federal money coming out, so we want everybody to be on the lookout for whatever federal funding requests, might suit the need that we have. So that's going to be continuous and ongoing. And we have separate teams, luckily, that are totally dedicated to utilizing those funds. We anticipate at this point we'll reconvene the task force sometime in the summer as we get closer to getting ready for FY25 budget requests. We don't want to hit that too late. We want to make sure, any requests are in agencies' minds and drafts early on for what we need. And then we'll make sure that all those FY25 budget requests get put together and we provide priorities up through the mayor's office. So that is it. This is not a goodbye, a farewell. It's until we talk next time. So thanks again, and I will pass it to our next group for closing remarks.
Great, thank you, Meredith, so much. Yeah, again, it's just like it's a in the moment, it was intense. It has been intense. We have come to, again, like you said, a milestone that's been, it seemed like so far away when we started this process, but now it's upon us. And now we are excited about wrapping it up, putting it into a great package that summarizes all the activity and gives a final report of recommendations as well. And that will come out soon. And then we will pick up the torch for the next lap of service that we'll do in this vein of work. So with that, we're going to go into our closing remarks. We're going to have some comments from each of the task force leads to give their perspective on this process. We gave the agencies that have been participating and the public members as well that have been participating. So now we just want to hear from the folks that have been on those over 15 planning meeting calls. We have a weekly meeting called, so I'm sure there's a lot of things in your head, a lot of expression of coordination and collaboration that has been very, very productive. And so with that, I want you guys to share your thoughts on this process, and we will document it and keep moving forward. So with that, I'd like to ask for Alan Prop from the Deputy Mayor of Operations and Infrastructure to share his thoughts.
Thanks, Monty. And I'll keep it brief because I think I just want to echo a lot of the points that have been made so far. The couple of things I want to say are, number one, I think this has been an exceptional model for how kind of cross-agency, cross-organization, and cross-district collaboration can work and should work. I think it's been run with a level of rigor and outreach and collaboration that I really rarely see in such kind of complex and cross-agency working groups. So first, I just want to express deep gratitude for that because it's not an accident. It comes from really hard work in the background from DOEE, DC Water, Monty and your team, and a lot of other folks who have been participating. It seems so streamlined and so simple on the surface because so much background work continues to go on in the background. So I want to express deep gratitude to those who have organized and everyone who has consistently participated and taken advantage of such a great organizational structure to input your all's ideas. And the second thing I will say is that I'm really excited to see where this leads on two levels. One, on just the programs that come out of it, all of the recommendations being implemented in the coming years, but also this forum and the trust that has been built with this forum, continuing to leverage this kind of common brain to push forward the ideas. I do not want to let a second or an ounce of this trust and great structure that has been built to go to waste. So I'm really interested and excited in seeing this team continue to work together and continue to implement the programs that come out of it. So I'll just leave. I'll leave with an expression of gratitude and thanks for all of your hard work in putting this together. And even though I know the work is only just beginning, it really has been a model for how programs and collaborations like this can work in the future outside of just the flood realm. So thank you.
Alan, thank you so much. You have really been a strong voice, and you've helped keep us on track many a time with the focus of what's happening from the Deputy Mayor's office. And that perspective has really colored this whole process to help us be as efficient as possible. So thank you so much, and you've given kind words to what has happened. So and what will continue. With that, I'd like to say hi, Vermesia. I see that you're on here, and we're glad to Vermesia participated quite a bit. So thank you for adding that in the chat. So DOEE, Nick, who is our flood guru, he lives and breathes floods. So I'm sure this process has been extremely rewarding for you because this is your chosen profession and subject matter expertise. Meredith Upchurch, and if Lily, any of the three of you would like to speak up, please Share.
Yeah, I'll just say a few words, just to tack on to Meredith, who was able to say a few things. But I think I'm just most really proud of just the staff connections that we've made throughout the process. I mean, just thinking about when this first started and we were gathering, designees and who was going to be on, and we didn't really know who to work with at each agency. And now, I know who to call, and I know, develop really good working relationships. And I think those are going to be so crucial for us getting to be able to do the work and implement all these action plans. So that's been really awesome to see. And then to Alan's point about all the behind the scenes, Monty, you and your crew have really made it as smooth as it could possibly be made for us to help us get all of this out there. And then also a special shout out to my staff. I know the task force is probably used to seeing my face and Meredith's face, but we really can't take all the credit. So much work is done behind the scenes, led by Lily Chang, but also support from Josh, Victor, Jackie, and Andrea. And so just shout out to you guys, and thanks for making it possible. So I think that'll wrap it for DOE, and I'll pass it on to DC Water.
So Nick, thank you. Monty, I'll jump in here. I'm going to echo what everybody said. Tremendous part of this effort was how every single individual and everybody chipped in towards the same goal and helped out. It was wonderful to see how everybody was committed to that one single goal. Sal talked about rising sea level, which is a fact of life. The other issue that is getting noticed more often now is high intensity, short duration storms. Those are the ones that cause intense flooding, and very often they're hard to predict. We've had several of them in the DC area in the last couple of years, and the frequency is just increasing as we go along. So these projects and everything that's been done in this first year of the task force are contributing towards a solution. And part of the work moving forward is to sequence these work. For example, what Nick and his team's doing with the flood modeling is excellent, because you can then model and say what areas are susceptible to flooding with these high intensity storms. Then you look for homes with basements where inundation can be a problem. So everything that's been worked on this flood task force is interrelated, and you just got to put the pieces together. Alan said it best. The trust that was formed between the different agencies is fantastic, and something that's going to really help us moving forward. In the model of forming, storming, norming, performing, this first year was great, but it was forming. The team actually formed. Storming is going to be the next phase, which is going to be challenging, but having this trust is going to help us get through it. What DISP has done and ORM's done is first of the country. Everybody's going to be looking at DC to see how can you get relief to people, because this issue is a problem across the nation. This also ties into other agencies like DGS, because we may have to put rain gauges on buildings so that we get information in a timely manner to have a response. So every single agency that has been involved in this task force has a role to play as we move forward. And this first year in just forming this team has been outstanding. So thank you, everybody. And Monty, I agree with all the kudos given to you and your facilitation. It's been a big part of our success.
There was a little delay because I'm blushing, but it's not just me. It's just so many people. Do we have anybody else from DC Water that wants to speak up? Maybe Barbara, Opera, or John, just to share a little bit, and then we can move on. But I just don't want to leave out the opportunity to hear from the rest of the team. All right. Well, With that, I just want to give a little bit of thank you because we've all been talking about how we've had a team, every agency spoken up and given thanks to their colleagues within the agency and also the leadership of their directors. I do want to point out that because of this process, because of the Flood Task Force, we've been able to accomplish the fact that we're agnostic. The city is agnostic of directors coming and going. And you saw in the slides, we've had a couple of changes. Now we have a connected team, a network within each of these agencies so that everyone is working across agencies to make sure that we are communicating in a successful manner. It makes it efficient for the budgeting process system. We're not duplicating efforts, we're working together. So ultimately the city, the residents, all of us really benefit from this process. And it's just the foresight and the fortitude of the city administrator for convening such a task force. It's the opportunity for the mayor to have her city or have her agencies running at the best, the best and most efficient way possible. And we're being thoughtful and good stewards of the money that is being, spent on resources and protection of assets and also making sure that folks are safe here in the district. So I am so pleased and proud of this entire process. I'm so excited about what we're going to be doing next. I know that the planning team, the A team as we call it, that's our little pet name for DOEE and DC Water, and DMWA with Alan, because they've been doing this every week. But I just want to share a little bit of gratitude for the co-chairs for really giving us a lot of time and opportunity to come together and meet as frequently as we've had. So CEO Gaddis, thank you so much for what you've done. You've actually taken on the opportunity for my team to help facilitate this. So DC Water really kind of shoulders that expense, and we do appreciate it so very much. DOEE, Director Wells is no longer, but he is still in the city's government, and we were so appreciative of all of his guidance and his wisdom and his understanding of how the city works, both not just from the executive level, but also from the council. So we were able to get those two together and kind of appreciate their time and their thoughtful contribution to this process as well. Lucinda Babers, our deputy mayor, has given us a lot of through line to make sure that we are looking at the next stops that are ahead of us in terms of the budgeting process and pushing on making sure we gathered and created that infrastructure list. So all these things are very important. And as I sit right now, the U.S. Conference of Mayors is happening, and there are hundreds and hundreds of mayors here in the District of Columbia. And the conversations that's being had is mostly about infrastructure. In this city, under the leadership of this mayor, we are tackling those hard issues. We are doing it in a way that is really going to make sure that we have the safety, first and foremost, for our residents. We're giving them relief thanks to DSB and ORM and thinking about the right tool to make it happen. So this is just an exciting experience. I wanted to say one more thing to thank my team, which is Adria Anderson, who's no longer with my team. She's moved to California because this is what young people do. They grow up and they move on. Rachel Kendrick, who's been right here doing the slides and doing all the fixing of everything. Kim Manning, my partner, Angelica Brown, who does all the graphics, Dylan Ross, who does the background research, Nick Hall, who again helps with research and he fills in the gaps, and then Michelle Bouchot, who has actually stood in for me a couple of times. So the team has been tight and strong, and we're so happy to support this process. And thank you for the opportunity. With that, I want to say, I think we're going to have our closing remarks from Mr. Gaddis, our CEO for DC Water, who has been fantastic. Again, can't thank you enough. DC Water has shouldered a lot of this flooding as an intake call from the residents because they hear water and they go to DC Water. But as we know, behind the scenes through this process, there's so many other agencies that are involved in this flooding experience. So, Mr. Gaddis, I'd love to have you come on screen and share your final thoughts about where we are right now and how we will move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Monty. And I'm having trouble with my camera today, but I wanted to first of all, it's a tough position for me to be in because I stand between the end of the meeting right now. So I will try and go as fast as I can and get through my remarks. But let me, first of all, I want to thank you, Monty, for your leadership and helping guide us through this. And I think we're in a great place right now. I also want to thank Mayor Bowser and also the city administrator, Donahue, for recognizing the need for this type of approach to tackle the issues of flooding in the district, and also Deputy Babers as well for her steady leadership right from the start at the beginning of this thing. And the participating members of the task force that have all said great words today. I'm going to thank you for the kind words, and the agencies that you represent, and for the dedication and active partnership throughout this process. Everyone came to the table, I think, with solutions, not complaining, but solutions, and a willingness to work together. And I think that was fantastic with what we were trying to do on the flooding issues here in the district. And I want to thank the community as well. They're the ones that are really impacted in the community, and some of them have been members of the community who have attended and stayed engaged in all of what we do, and helping keep us and holding us accountable. And I want to thank the incredible partners at DOEE, former director Tommy Wells, and my chairman of the DC Water Board, and now interim director Richard Jackson and Daniel Connor as well. And I want to also thank Nick and Meredith and Lily from DOEE, and Alan from the Deputy Mayor's Office, and Opera and Barbara and Salil from the DC Water side as well. They have done a fantastic job, and it's been great to loan them to this task force. And so my apologies if I've not mentioned everyone. That's all. You always get in trouble when you start listing people. So I apologize if I didn't list everyone for their time over the past 15 months. And going towards this great effort that we have of us. But I think that Salil summarized the work very well when he stated that the task force is that multiple agency that came from a lot of the answers came from multiple agencies, and the impacts and the climate change and on the urban landscape. So I want to thank him for that. It really put things in perspective for me as I was listening today. And then working together, you all have laid out great groundwork to implement impactful changes, including but not limited to creating an energy relief fund, offering backwater valves, requiring sellers to disclose problems, creating a one-call system, and installing flood sensors. All of these things are just a start to some of the great things that are going to happen. And the collaboration that we have between all the agencies, it was very, very evident today. And it's great to hear from all the agencies and how they are contributing. And, I will tell you in closing, that DC Water is totally committed to really achieving what we think is equitable results and advance the health and the wellness and the safety of the community that we serve with honor and with pride. So Monty, thank you as well. And that concludes my remarks. Thank you all very much.
All right. Well, Mr. Gaddis, well said. I don't think there's anything else we can say other than please be on the lookout for our next round of gatherings. We will package this final report. We will make sure that everyone, of course, has access to it and has a copy, and you can send it out to your communications list so that the public can know far and wide about what's been done here and how we will proceed to move forward. And with that, I'd like to say thank you so much, and just keep staying in touch. Don't let this be the end. It is just the end of this particular portion, and we will continue on with our new slate of things to accomplish in terms of budgeting and prioritization of flood resiliency in the District of Columbia. So with that, thank you so much, everyone. You get 40 minutes back in your day. So thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Everybody.
Thanks, everyone.